Every issue has two sides. Most shows pick one. We argue both. Not for clicks, not for comfort, but because the truth loves attention. Between ideas, power, and the people they affect. This is Mike and Nick. Left versus right. 30 minutes, no talking points, no safe takes. No holds barred. Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go. Nick Iones, it's been a long time since we recorded a Mike and Nick. How has life been treating you?
Too much going on.
Is that good?
Yeah. Life is life. You have to love life no matter what is happening.
Okay, but you've been very busy. For example, you're not in the studio with me. I can't reach out and grab you.
Well, you know what? It was only you can't. And you can't hug me or touch me or feel me.
I don't like that.
That's a beautiful thing.
But that's how busy I'm just trying to get a sense. How things are busy at Fusion Corp.
Things are busy. I'm working hard as usual. Nothing really changes in my life except I got so many things going on. That's it. Very exciting.
It's good to stay busy.
It's a tough market right now. Like I said many times. And I think we're going to talk about a little bit about that today in the news
Mike
story.
And Nick. Yeah,
because a lot of things that are happening out in the news is kind of affecting everyday Canadians.
But there is one question the listenership is curious about. Have you heard anything from the Integrity Commissioner regarding your excellent live recording with Brad Bradford?
I haven't heard anything since. Have you?
No, I did talk to the Brad's lawyer. But I have not heard from the integrity people, and as far as I know,
they're gonna come after us or what?
Well, I don't know what you know. At some point, when you come back on Toronto Mike, we can dive into this. That was kind of the idea, but you were sick. I think you got a cold or something.
Yeah. You owe me a Toronto Mike, right?
Well, you got to be in the basement for that. I'm not doing that on Zoom.
No, I'll come into the basement. That's
okay.
Fine.
Well, maybe it'll be in a couple of weeks. We're gonna make.
We should have done that today, I guess.
Well,
that could have been a good opportunity. Anyways, we had a last minute cancellation, but we'll move on. How was the gig? You got to tell me the gig at El Macombo.
So, Nick, you came on Toronto Mike once, and you basically told me I should be charging admission for TMLX events. Do you remember this?
I do.
Wait, can you turn off Nick, this is a professional podcast. Why am I hearing notifications in the background?
You're hearing notifications. Come on.
A couple in a row there. All
right, I'll turn them off.
Okay, but you told me, Mike, you said, you need to monetize this Toronto Mike universe. And you said, charge money for tickets. And I'm like, nah, I like free events. I have one on June 25th. I hope you're there at Great Lakes Brewery. But anyway, I
usually attend.
Yeah, when they're free, because I charged $65 to attend my 90-minute presentation at the El Macombo, and you weren't there.
I wasn't there because I was sick, right? Something like that.
Do you have a doctor's note?
I don't need a doctor's note, my friend.
Okay. Well, it went very well. I did record it and
tell me about it.
Well, there was, Blair Packham from the Jitters did 45 minutes to open things up, and then I grabbed the mic at 8 o'clock sharp, and I delivered 90 minutes, no breaks, no pauses. I think it went very well. It went according to plan, anyways. And then I had a top secret grand finale that struck at exactly 9:30, and then lowest of the low. Basically sang a song from Shakespeare My Butt called Rosie and Grey that is very important to the Toronto Mike universe. And to wrap all this up, I believe it was a success. And we had a good crowd. We had about 85 people in the crowd, and we didn't lose money on this. And I think all is well.
Well, that's cool, and it was a pretty interesting thing. I was saying to myself, like, this is a pretty cool event, and you're on stage and you're talking, you're entertaining people, but you know what? You should keep it going. Don't give that up.
Well, you and I will discuss this offline.
You need that. So, what was it called? Mike what?
I called it Toronto Mike Social Experiment.
Yes. Why don't you keep running it?
Well, I never thought to do it again, but maybe
you should.
During your next Toronto Mike appearance, when we talk about the integrity stuff with Brad Bradford, we absolutely should talk about that.
Yeah, you should keep it going, the social experiment, because it's a really cool gig for you. And actually, if you don't want to charge your buddies over at your TMLX events, but you can do the social event and you can charge for that.
Yeah, you might be onto something. To be discussed.
Do it on your own. You got to be the producer there for that. Don't let people, Anyways, I'm not going to get into that.
Unless it's you, maybe, my business manager.
Yeah, I'll be your business manager for sure.
Okay, speaking of business, I've been curious for the last little while. Your thoughts on CUSMA. Do you know what CUSMA stands for?
Yeah, USMCA.
CUSMA starts with a C, I think.
USMCA, United States, USM, Mexico and Canada.
Well, CUSMA is Canada, U.S., Mexico.
Agreement.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
what are your
CUSMA
thoughts on
USMCA.
everything? The negotiations are sort of happening now. There's a few things I want to ask you about, but what are your thoughts on the CUSMA negotiations?
Okay, well, for Canada, they're not happening. So it's not going well. And I think I spoke about this like months ago. So let's talk about Mexico, because Mexico is making progress with the United States. They're having serious talks and they seem to be getting along and making things happen. So you got to ask yourself, what's the big deal? What happened with Canada? Well, you know what? I told you back in the day, Mark Carney wants to be this figure on the stage and saying all sorts of things about the New World Order and making this move and that move, but he's antagonizing our trading partner. And, whether you want to say what you want to say, but you know what? Strategically, you always have to, keep your cards, play it safe sometimes, especially when we have a lot to lose. And you have to do your best to work that relationship really, really well. Keep this guy happy, at least for the time being. And you know what? You'll probably make some inroads in the negotiations. But now we've got nothing. And you know what? That I strongly believe that all this rhetoric and this and that back and forth and all of call it Mark Carney's gestures have put us in last at the negotiation table. And I think Dominic LeBlanc, I'm not a huge fan of who we are sending. And there's another lady, what's her name? Is it Janet Charay or something like that?
I wish I could bail you out right
she
now.
Was, yeah. Well, I don't know who she is. She's supposed to be this great trade negotiator, but I don't think they have a good. They have wolves at the table. We need to send wolves to the trading negotiations.
But doesn't that contradict what you're saying? Like, aren't you saying
no? You need strong people to go to those meetings. I'm not sure if that team is the best team to go out there, but that's the Prime Minister's decision, obviously. And they're not happening. And coming away from that, you heard Dominic LeBlanc's sort of rhetoric at the table with this turbulence issue. He sounded like a fool. I think he got winded at those talks, talking about turbulence. Be ready, it's turbulent time, and this and that. Hold on to your seats. I mean, walks away from a negotiation and says that? So, Mike, you haven't said a word here because I'm right.
Well, I want to say a word now. It's harder to interrupt when you're right. You are the right. I know you wrote that script, left versus right. Every time I say it, I don't love it because I don't like how we all jump into these silos and we're like, it's like our team.
Well,
I'm the Leafs, you're the Habs. We're having a good time. But I will say it is more difficult to interrupt you when you're in the flow when you're remote versus sitting right here where I could literally punch you in the nose. Okay. But I would just say, you have to remember, Mark Carney, his bosses, if you will, are the 40 million Canadians, or how many voters we have in this country. He needs to do what would be popular on the home front, or the Liberal Party will be voted out next federal election. So I just think you got to be. You say he should not antagonize the United States. I think Mark Carney has to play hardball with the United States while Donald Trump is the president.
Okay, so you know what? You can play hardball if you can afford to lose. He doesn't have any. There's no leverage in these negotiations. I mean, listen. Bottom line is that he didn't have to. He has said a lot of things that has pissed off the administration, And I think that has gone against us. And I don't think he didn't need to say those things. He could have said a lot of other things.
I think it's popular in Canada.
He didn't have to say the world order. There's a new world order. The old world order has collapsed. Isolating, the trading partners. He didn't have to say that. He could have said, we need to stand together, or we should be standing together. Let's stand together with the United States. He could have been more, try to support the relationship. I don't think he's doing that.
Nick, if I could remind you, as recently as this past week, and I want to ask you about the technical recession in a minute. I know you have things to say about that, but just this past week, Donald Trump on his social media account posted 51st state regarding Canada. That was this week, okay? This isn't something...
And who cares?
And you think Canadians want to see...
So if I say Toronto Mike, social dud experiment, what are you going to do?
That's different than you saying Toronto Mike, my personal property, my property belongs to me. Right, and without a twinkle in your eye.
He didn't say that. He said 51st state. That's
what do you think 51st state means? It means Canada. What do you mean? Who cares? Canadians care. Canadian. You said you need.
Why should we focus on that?
Well, why
don't we focus on what's important is building our economy.
If we were all like Nick Ioannis, we'd be the 51st state already. But let me ask you this. This is what I want to ask you. Nick Ioannis.
Mike, you're ready for that one, eh?
That's why I do 90 minutes at the Elmo. Listen, Pete Hoekstra, he shared on social media the Trump post saying 51st state. I say we kick that guy out of this country. He's here at the privilege of the prime minister, and to me, that's treasonous.
Well, you know what? If we all react like that, we're going to create more problems.
I think the average Canadian would rather take a financial hit than kowtow to this administration.
Okay, really?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, you wait and see. So all I'm going to say is this is not necessary to kick anyone out. We need cooler heads. That's what we need. Let's get down to business.
Well, talk to me about this technical.
You know what? Mark Carney was hired for this job and elected for prime minister because he was the best person to deal with the United States. It doesn't look like it's going too well.
It all depends on your perspective. But let me ask you this,
you know
Nick.
what? He was tooting 51st state with Trudeau. Mark Carney went to see Trump a couple of times, and it was actually going well for a while, wasn't it?
At the very end, right. Well, because he looked into Justin's eyes and fell in love. We all know what happened there. But what about this technical recession? I believe from your perspective is important here. Yeah, but I don't want to talk about Justin Trudeau. He's busy with Katy Perry at a rock concert probably tonight.
What a loser.
He's his son, quite the musician.
I think people like Canadians have a big disdain for Justin Trudeau. But technical recession. What's technical about it? We have a weak economy. We're having job losses. We have a huge problem in the housing market. Groceries are high. Everything is so high. Everything is expensive. And you know what? All we're doing is let's admit it. Let's look back at the last the GDP for the last 5 years or so, and let's be honest. Let's have an honest conversation. The economy is not well. Things are not going well in Canada, and you know what? It's hurting people. People are feeling the pain. People are renegotiating their mortgages. There's a lot of power sales and defaults on mortgages and everything like that. The Canadian economy is struggling, and our prime minister, in many ways, he is trying to do some things, but he's actually taking the taxpayers' money and he's spending all this money on these programs, some of which may help, some of which may not. I'm not quite sure if they are going to help so much. I've got concerns, and you know what? We need to do is help businesses thrive and grow. We need lower taxes. We don't need all these taxes. And honestly, it's a joke that the media has introduced this drop in slow growth in our country and said, "Oh, it's a technical recession." And then people are saying, "No, it's not." I think the Canadians don't share that viewpoint. And actually, it's insulting to the Canadian people that they're trying to frame it like there's nothing wrong. There's a lot of things wrong with this country right now.
But if I may interject, Mr. Aines, this was to be expected when we entered a trade war with our most powerful economic ally. Like, this is all what we expected, right?
You know, if you want to blame others for your the way you're managing your country, then that's okay.
But there's going to be a transition period, right? Because we learned from our mistake. We were too reliant on the United States.
We were not strong at the beginning, and we should be partnering with small business, making sure that they can succeed, lowering taxes for Canadians, because we're paying a lot of taxes. There's no question about it.
Did I read on your LinkedIn account, Nick? I follow you on LinkedIn. I urge everybody to follow Nick Aines on LinkedIn. It's always interesting. But you were writing about in the condo market, you know, where Fusion Corp is heavily involved. You've seen this recession coming for years, right?
Yeah, it has. But
that's interesting perspective. Like, I mean, you know, you in your space, you've been living in a recession for a lot longer than, you know, the technical.
And just now, yeah, and it's happening all over the housing market right now. It's actually a very tough time in the marketplace. But let's talk about what caused that, and you know, it's development charges that are too high. So those are taxes. Just that big chunk of development charges is like almost 30%. We have HST that we're paying on new homes. So
I thought you turned off your notifications, Nick.
You know what? I tried to, but it didn't work.
Okay, next time.
It went all on mute. Apologize for that. But all I'm going to say, Mike, is that, you know, and you can rebut as much as you want. There's a lot of issues in Canada right now, and we need to fix it. We need to, like, people want to be happy about their country. We want to be proud Canadians, and we are. But we need to be, all Canadians have to prosper. We need to see the prosperity of all Canadians. We need to lift all Canadians up. And I think, you know, we do that through, you know, a strong economy.
I don't think...
And there's no rebuttal here. I can see it.
There's no rebuttal because I agree with you. All Canadians need to be happy. How would I argue that point, Nick? We always come together on these platitudes. Of course, we want a strong economy. Of course, all Canadians want to be happy. But I will remind you, when the beast that is the United States threatens to annex your nation and make you the 51st state, and when you resist and you say Canada's not for sale, they say, okay, we will devastate you economically until you come crawling to us begging to be the 51st state. I think a technical recession is really really not a surprise, and really I think every Canadian would have signed up and say, okay, we'll take the hit short term because we're not going to become a part of the United States of America.
Well, all I'm going to say is that, first of all, everyone's focusing on this 51st state and all the bad things that are happening from the United States. And you know what? But it's happened to many other countries too. So, you know, let's not single out Canada. And what I want to say is this: it's only when that happened that we started to move on some of these major initiatives.
Right.
Why weren't we doing that 5-10 years ago?
I agree with you again.
There's no innovation vision. Now we're starting. Now, you know, there's this AI announcement.
Right, the strategy.
Yeah, the strategy. Where was that in the early stages?
No, again,
we should have been innovate. We should have been innovating. And you know what? You look at that program; it's kind of like all over the place. You know what we should be focusing on is encouraging AI development in Canada and acting as, you know, creating a catalyst to promote that. You know, there's so many things that, you know, you look for these programs, government programs. They're spending money. Really, at the end of the day, are they really effective? You have to ask yourself, and in many ways, they're not.
Agreed again.
So all I'm going to say is that, you know what, blame whoever you want if it makes you feel better. But at the end of the day, we need to take responsibility. We need to take accountability for this country. And you know what? We have a beautiful country, but the people are suffering, in my opinion.
And I will remind you, I know you know this, but you know, they're complaining in the United States about gas prices and food prices, and you might remember that, you know, United States and Israel, invaded Iran, and I think they thought they'd mop that up in a weekend, but I don't know what the current status of the Strait of Hormuz is. I don't believe it's open. I don't know if you have an update on that.
Well, when I'm speaking with gas prices and oil prices, and you know what, I don't know what's happening with the Strait of Hormuz, except for maybe they want to maintain this blockade.
But that was an own goal, right?
Probably could be the main goal. Who knows?
Sure, but the Obama deal will turn out to have been a better deal than what they stirred up here.
Honestly, I don't even know if it's about nuclear anymore. I mean, ultimately, who really knows? But all I'm going to say is that let's go back to your point. Gas prices are going up. Food prices are going up. If people really want to take that seriously, they should be looking at, okay, what can we do to make food prices lower? You know, what can the industry do to keep food prices lower? You know, in terms of energy, you know, obviously this issue with the Strait of Hormuz probably is, you know, that's the root cause of why energy prices are so high. But if people are truly interested in actually asking, you know, or finding out solutions to high grocery prices, let's set aside the fuel prices. Maybe they're integrated too or interconnected. But you know, we got a rebate, or some Canadians got a rebate. You know, that's a joke, to be honest with you. And we talked about that rebate in the past. And all I'm going to say is that, you know, why are they just looking at the root cause of why food prices are so high in Canada? Is it competition? Is there something going on with the grocery people or the grocery stores or corporations? Is there not enough competition in Canada? What is it? Why are they so high? Because they're always going up. They're going up again, too. So we have to ask these questions to solve the problems. And quite frankly, I don't think anyone's really doing anything about it because they don't want to do anything about it because the grocery stores are making a ton of money these days.
Boy, oh boy. Okay, now I want to close.
I think you're agreeing with me on that, too.
Yeah, well, I agree with you on all of this. I simply am giving Mark Carney some time, like I guess you can call it a honeymoon period, but some time during the transition period, because I think you would agree, we were so reliant on America for economically, for defense, in so many manners. We thought, our buddies to the south, they got this huge military, they got this huge economy, you know, they'll take care of their little buddy Canada. And I believe now we got a wake-up call, and maybe it's a positive thing that Trump started talking 51st state when he was reelected for his second term, because it really has forced us to make some radical changes and become far less dependent on the United States of America. So I think we agree.
Or to start doing something about our country and
right.
our economy.
Well, I'm going to close with a big...
Yeah, and that's a good thing. I think that, you know what, you look at the bad that happened and you look at the 51st state, but what has it done? It has actually, you know, ignited Canadian, unity. And it's also had an effect on some of the you know, whether you believe in Mark Carney's policies or not. At least someone's trying to do something, but I don't know how effective they're going to be. I'm a little bit concerned about that.
I'm glad you brought up Canadian unity, because we're going to close with a subject regarding that, but also two thoughts before we get there.
Okay.
One is, if Canada wins a World Cup match, because we've never won one in the history of this country, we've never won a World Cup match, but if we win a World Cup match, I think we'll have played our first World Cup match before we do the next episode of Mike and Nick. That'll unite the country. I'm telling you right now, nothing unites this country like the national team doing well on the world stage. Just throwing that out there.
They're not going to win.
we
Let's be honest.
Even Qatar is going to beat us.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, that's game 2. Okay, but I know how I want to close, but on our way there, because we're talking Mark Carney, I'm just curious about your thoughts on this, because you have a show called Building Toronto Skyline. So you have a focus on Toronto. And I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on Doug Ford's plan to expand the island airport? Because Mark Carney recently said he hasn't, I'm going to quote him, formed an opinion on this expansion, and he promised a, quote, consultation process. What does Nick Ioannis think about expanding the island airport in Toronto?
Well, honestly, I haven't. This is kind of I wasn't prepared to talk about that, but let's talk about it.
Well, I'm just curious your thoughts. You don't have to done heavy research.
Listen, let's maybe you and I can hash this out a little bit. Why does he want to do it? I guess that's the question we have to ask. Is it to, expand access to the direct access to Toronto? What is the purpose of expanding the island airport? Is it commerce? What is it?
Well,
do you know why?
Well, the expansion is to allow jets to land there. And why is he allowing jets to land there? I guess that's where it gets a little greasy for me. I don't understand why that's necessary. I bike this area all the time. This is kind of a beautiful part of Toronto, and people come to the waterfront. And I don't know why you would want to add jets to the island airport, which is very close to the shoreline.
I don't think it's a good idea. I don't see it as being a good idea.
Okay, so I'd love to hear that. So here's how we're going to close.
I don't see, we have an airport, like an international airport. What do we need? What do we need to expand that island airport?
Well, we agree on
I kind of agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. So Mark Carney is going to have because you can't do it without Carney's blessing because it's an airport. That's a federal thing.
Yeah. So he'll do studies and then it'll go away. That's what's going to happen.
Okay, I love to hear it. Okay.
I don't think it's going to happen. And you know what? Quite frankly, I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's good for Toronto.
Okay, I'm glad we agree once again. I'm keeping score here. We keep agreeing. But I want to know what your thoughts are on the Alberta Separatist movement. Is it just a small percentage of wackos over there, or is this something I should be concerned about?
Well, I mean, clearly it's an indication that Albertans and Alberta itself is not feeling great about being part of Canada. So, I mean, there are a lot of people that feel that way, and I don't think you should call them wackos because.
Okay, sorry, I should call them conservatives.
A lot of people are not happy with, especially Alberta because they're a big oil producing province and they have a lot of resources. So at the end of the day, there's a reason why they don't feel happy about being part of Canada for some reason, and you know what? I think. As a democratic society, their voices should be heard.
But you will note that when you find out who's a separatist, like who's in favor of separating from Canada, you find out, they're also conservative voters. Like, so it's not all conservative voters, but everyone who seems in favor of separatism is a conservative voter. So I wonder if this is just a very conservative part of the country rejecting the fact that the Liberals have been in power since 2015.
Well, I mean, I think ultimately there's a lot of people that probably do not like the Liberal government and the policies, and they've been upset for a very long time. And I think maybe some of the individuals involved might be a bit extremist, of course, but they did it legally.
Well, we'll see what happens. I would say,
and you know what? It's a democracy, and let people vote if they want to vote. I don't think it's going to happen, obviously. I think they're going to lose, of course. But I think, people have a right to say what's on their mind. It's a way of expressing, their sort of unhappiness with the country and the leadership.
But I will say, if Texas were going to have a referendum on leaving the Union, I think the National Guard would be there with their guns drawn and would be ready to go to war.
Well, we don't live in the United States.
We don't do that. No, we don't.
We live in Canada. We don't do that here.
And I would say to Albertans, the conservative Albertans who want to separate because we've had liberal rules since 2015 and now there's a majority for Mark Carney, so it's going to be a few more years. I would just say I'm a Torontonian who has had to live with 3 majority governments in a row from the Progressive Conservative Party led by Doug Ford. So that's sort of the nature of being part of a bigger thing. Not everybody in the country, not everybody in the province thinks like you do. But Nick, I'm glad we get together every couple of weeks and we can hash this out.
You have the final word, eh?
Well, you have this intro goes a couple of minutes. Do you want to have the final word?
No. No, I listen. It was a lot of fun discussion today. We had to catch up. Yeah. There's a lot of news headlines out there, and it's kind of like an interesting time. Put it not necessarily an exciting time for everybody, but it's an interesting time, and we have to, all pull together and hope for the best.
Well, thank you, Nick, for joining me for a enlightened discussion. Even though you weren't here and I couldn't hug you, I felt like we could connect or choke
or punch me.
Well, I'll say this: you're stronger than I am.
Yeah, that's true.
Is that a surprise? That's as big a surprise to find out we're in a technical recession. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for listening to Mike and Nick. Left versus right. Nick wrote that part. I'm not sure I like that part, but that's the deal here.
Left versus right. Well, you are a bit of a lefty, so
I do bike.
yeah,
Please,
you bike.
I bike every day. Please like, share, and subscribe. And Nick and I will see you again in 2 weeks.
Awesome.